At 66, Red Fox was not the type to play safe. When most stars stayed quiet to protect their image, Foxx stepped onto the stage with fire in his voice. The audience expected laughs, but what they got was a storm. He leaned forward, eyes sharp, and said he was ready to tell the truth about 6 actors he could never forgive. Every word felt heavy, every pause dramatic. The crowd froze, waiting to hear the names. This was not just comedy anymore, it was confession, revenge, and raw Hollywood history unfolding in real time. Before we dive into video, please subscribe to our channel. Red Fox's journey to fame was anything but easy. Born John Elroy Sanford in 1922, he grew up in the tough streets of St. Louis, with little money and no stability at home. His father abandoned the family early, leaving young Red to face hardship on his own. By his teenage years, he had already taken small jobs washing dishes, running errands, and hustling on the streets just to survive. In search of a better life, he moved to Chicago, where he first stepped into the world of entertainment. Performing in small clubs and bars, Red developed his signature raw, unfiltered comedy. But the road was not smooth. He faced constant rejection, often told his material was too dirty for mainstream audiences. Racism in the entertainment industry only made things harder. While white comedians were given bigger stages and better pay, Red had to fight for every opportunity. His big break finally came with Sanford and Son, but even then, the struggles didn't stop. Behind the laughter and success, Foxx battled personal demons. He went through multiple divorces that left him emotionally drained and financially unstable. The IRS chased him for unpaid taxes, forcing him to sell property and possessions. At one point, he declared bankruptcy, despite being one of the most famous comedians in America. What hurt most was betrayal. Friends he helped rise to fame turned their backs when he needed them most. Hollywood celebrated him on stage, but off stage he felt alone, misunderstood, and abandoned. By 66, Red Foxx had seen it all: poverty, racism, betrayal, broken marriages, and financial ruin. Yet he never lost his voice. His pain became his weapon, and he used comedy to fight back against a world that had tried to silence him. Now we talk about 6 names he dislikes the most, and why. Number 1. Bill Cosby. When Red Foxx spoke about Bill Cosby, his tone changed from comedy to pure bitterness. To the outside world, Cosby was America's dad, a clean, family-friendly comedian who became a global star with The Cosby Show. But to Red Foxx, that image was nothing but a mask. Foxx hated how Cosby looked down on raw, street-born comedians like him. In interviews, Cosby often criticized comics who used dirty jokes or adult humor, and everyone knew he was talking about Red. This wasn't just a clash of style, it was personal. Foxx had built his career from scratch, grinding in smoky nightclubs, making audiences roar with his unfiltered truth. He knew his comedy wasn't polite, but it was real. Meanwhile, Cosby positioned himself as the moral leader of black comedy, silently judging anyone who didn't fit his clean standards. For Foxx, this felt like betrayal. Instead of standing together as pioneers in a racist Hollywood, Cosby distanced himself and even acted superior. Foxx once joked that Cosby's perfect family man image was just an act, and years later, scandals would reveal a darker side of Cosby's life. To Foxx, that hypocrisy was unforgivable. How could a man who lived a double life attack others for being too raw? The hate grew stronger because Hollywood rewarded Cosby while overlooking Foxx. Cosby was given the spotlight, the big contracts, the global fame. Foxx, despite his influence, was often pushed aside as too controversial. That stung deeply. By 66, Red Foxx had no reason to hide his feelings. When he named Bill Cosby, it wasn't just about comedy. It was about respect, honesty, and betrayal. For Foxx, Cosby represented everything fake about Hollywood, and that's why he hated him the most. Number 2. Eddie Murphy. When Red Foxx mentioned Eddie Murphy, the room went silent. At first, their story had been one of friendship, almost family. Eddie looked up to Red in his early days, often calling him an inspiration. Foxx, the elder statesman of comedy, embraced Eddie and even appeared in his movie Harlem Nights. It seemed like a passing of the torch. But behind the smiles, Foxx carried deep resentment. Why? Because in his eyes, Eddie Murphy turned his back on him. As Murphy's star skyrocketed in the 1980s with Beverly Hills Cop and Coming to America, Red expected loyalty. He thought Eddie would use his influence to help keep him working, to honor the comedian who had paved the way. Instead, Foxx felt ignored. When Foxx struggled with money and needed support, Murphy, now one of the richest actors in Hollywood, kept his distance. The bitterness grew when Red saw how Hollywood celebrated Eddie as a genius while forgetting the groundbreakers like himself. Foxx had endured racism, rejection, and years of grinding, so comedians like Eddie could have a smoother path. Yet when it was Eddie's turn to uplift the next man, Red believed he failed. Foxx also disliked Murphy's growing ego. The young comedian who once respected his elders now acted like he didn't need anyone. To Red, that arrogance was a betrayal. He often said Hollywood fame changes people, and with Eddie, he felt he lost a friend to the bright lights. At 66, when Foxx revealed the names of the actors he hated, Eddie Murphy's inclusion shocked many. But for Foxx, it wasn't hate born overnight. It was pain. Pain of being forgotten, pain of betrayal, and pain of realizing that even those you help rise to the top might one day leave you behind. Number 3. Rye. Chard Pryor. When Red Fox spoke about Richard Pryor, it was with a mix of admiration and anger. They weren't just comedians. They were brothers in the struggle, two legends who broke barriers for black entertainers. But with greatness often comes rivalry, and between Foxx and Pryor, that rivalry turned into resentment. In the beginning, Red saw Pryor as a younger version of himself. He even encouraged him, giving advice and stage wisdom. Pryor's style, raw, fearless, and brutally honest, reminded people of Foxx. But as Pryor's fame exploded in the 1970s, Foxx felt overshadowed. Suddenly, Richard Pryor was being hailed as the greatest comedian alive, while Foxx, who had been blazing trails long before, was pushed aside. The jealousy wasn't one-sided. Pryor also had issues with Foxx. He didn't like how Red sometimes dismissed him as a copycat, or how he claimed that Pryor stole his style. Behind the scenes, the two clashed over ego, money, and recognition. Hollywood loved to pit them against each other, and it worked. What hurt Foxx most was that their friendship never recovered. Instead of standing together as kings of comedy, they drifted apart. Foxx watched as Pryor won movie deals, record-breaking stand-up specials, and critical acclaim. Meanwhile, Foxx was fighting financial troubles and being labeled old school. By the time Foxx reached 66, the bitterness had hardened. Naming Richard Pryor on his list wasn't just about dislike, it was about disappointment. Foxx once hoped Pryor would carry his legacy with pride, but instead, he felt forgotten and disrespected. For Foxx, Richard Pryor wasn't just a rival. He was the friend who turned into a competitor, the brother who chose Hollywood over loyalty. Number 4. Frank Sinatra. When Red Fox's anger turned toward Frank Sinatra, many were surprised. Sinatra, the chairman of the board, was a global icon, loved for his voice, style, and influence. But for Foxx, Sinatra represented something much darker, the gatekeeping power of old Hollywood. Foxx had crossed paths with Sinatra in Las Vegas and Hollywood clubs. On the surface, Sinatra was polite, but Red always sensed an invisible wall. Sinatra belonged to the inner circle of white entertainers who dominated the industry, while black performers like Red were kept on the sidelines. No matter how talented they were rarely given equal respect. Foxx believed Sinatra had the power to open doors, but chose not to. He saw how Sinatra supported his Rat Pack friends, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, but when it came to comedians like Red, there was silence. The spotlight was tightly guarded, and Foxx felt deliberately excluded. This lack of recognition cut deep. Foxx had fought his whole life for scraps in comedy clubs, while Sinatra lived in mansions backed by Hollywood's biggest studios. The inequality wasn't just professional, it was personal. Foxx knew he could make any crowd laugh, but he was never invited into the same glamorous rooms where Sinatra reigned supreme. By the time Foxx was 66, the resentment had boiled over. To him, Sinatra symbolized an entire system of privilege that kept black entertainers from reaching their full potential. He wasn't just naming an enemy, he was naming an industry built to keep people like him out. When Red Foxx said he hated Frank Sinatra, it wasn't just about the man. It was about what he stood for. A Hollywood that gave everything to a few and almost nothing to the rest. Number 5. Daisy Arnaz. When Red Fox named Daisy Arnaz, many raised their eyebrows. Arnaz, the Cuban-American star of I Love Lucy, was seen by most as a trailblazer who brought diversity to television. But to Fox, Arnaz wasn't a hero. He was another powerful figure in Hollywood who made it harder for black entertainers to break through. Arnaz was not just an actor. He was a producer and co-creator of I Love Lucy, one of the most influential sitcoms in TV history. Behind the scenes, he had real power to decide who got screen time, which stories got told, and who stayed out. Fox believed Arnaz used that influence to protect the old system rather than open it up. Black performers, no matter how talented, were often limited to small roles, background parts, or stereotypes. Foxx resented that Arnaz, who knew what it was like to be an outsider himself, didn't extend a helping hand to others facing the same barriers. Foxx also disliked the way Arnaz treated comedy. To him, Arnaz's humor felt polished, family-safe, and scripted. The exact opposite of the raw, street-born comedy Foxx lived by. Hollywood adored Arnaz's safe image, but rejected Foxx's bold voice. That difference burned inside him, making Arnaz a symbol of everything Foxx fought against. By '66, when Foxx revealed his list, calling out Desi Arnaz was his way of exposing hypocrisy. Arnaz was celebrated as a pioneer, but Foxx saw him as a gatekeeper who kept the door shut on black comedians fighting for real recognition. For Foxx, hating Arnaz wasn't personal revenge. It was about holding him accountable for being part of a Hollywood machine that chose comfort over courage. Number 6. Sammy Davis Jr. When Red Fox mentioned Sammy Davis Jr., it shocked many. To the world, Sammy was a dazzling entertainer, a singer, dancer, comedian, and actor who had conquered stage and screen. He was celebrated as a black icon who stood alongside Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack. But to Foxx, Sammy Davis Jr. symbolized something else entirely: the painful price of selling out. Foxx respected Sammy's talent. No one could deny it. But what he couldn't stand was how Sammy often bent over backward to gain acceptance from white Hollywood. Foxx saw him as a man who gave too much away just to fit in, whether it was laughing too hard at Sinatra's jokes, downplaying his own struggles, or publicly siding with people who never truly accepted him. The famous moment that stung Red the most was when Sammy hugged President Richard Nixon in front of cameras. For Foxx, that image wasn't just politics, it was betrayal. While black communities fought for justice and equality, Sammy seemed more concerned with pleasing the powerful. Foxx felt that Sammy's choices made it harder for other black entertainers to stand tall without compromise. Another source of resentment was jealousy. Foxx had spent years grinding in small clubs, while Sammy enjoyed glamorous stages, TV specials, and adoration from both black and white audiences. But instead of using his position to fight harder for others, Foxx believed Sammy played it safe. By '66, Foxx was done hiding his feelings. Naming Sammy Davis Jr. on his list wasn't about envy alone. It was about disappointment. To Red, Sammy represented the painful truth that not every star used their influence to break barriers. Some, in his eyes, chose comfort over courage. At '66, Red Foxx stood as a man with nothing left to hide. He had faced poverty, racism, betrayal, and broken promises, yet his voice remained fearless. Naming the 6 actors he hated most was not just bitterness. It was truth carved from a lifetime of pain. Each name reflected a wound, a betrayal, or a system stacked against him. Foxx knew it might shock the world, but he didn't care. He wanted history to remember him as the man who spoke honestly, even when it hurt. Red Foxx never played safe. He played real.